Hello and welcome to another series of our popular webinar, which is Invest Nest. Today's topic is going to be on two hot businesses with trends under discussion. My name is Samta. I will be your moderator for today's event, and on behalf of Kalkine Media, I'm pleased to welcome our esteemed speaker from the leadership team of the top ASX listed players, K2fly and City Gold Corporation, and our refined and inquisitive audience of potential investors. Now, market swings are keeping the investors on their toes amid economic rebound and bond yield mania. The value versus growth stock debate is never ending, but recent advances of value companies are signaling a significant tide change. Now, given the current value versus growth debate, insights from the industry experts can be valuable. Before we start the session, let me inform you that this webinar is for informational purpose only, and it is not a solicitation or recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stocks of the company or the companies or engage in any investment activity under discussion. We are neither licensed nor qualified to provide investment advice through this platform. Our first speaker, Mr. Brian Miller, who is the CEO of K2fly. Now, K2fly is a new type of global software company that delivers enterprise-wide technical assurance software solutions. Mr. Miller is a 30-year veteran of IT sector, primarily in the software and services arena, and has an extensive network and experience with the mobility in asset and intensive sector. Mr. Miller was a founding member of the Institute of Asset Management in the UK and has influenced the development of initial BS 5750 standard for asset management within the UK energy sector. He has worked with various UK industry regulators like energy, water, rail, with board directorship with UK and Australian IT companies. Welcome to InvestNest, Mr. Miller. Please share your business presentation deck and take over the virtual stage.
Thank you very much. And hello, everybody. I'm sitting in Perth in Western Australia, and I'm here to talk to you about K2fly, the company that I'm the CEO of. But arguably more importantly, I'm here to talk to you about two themes, something known as software as a service, or SaaS, which is a way in which we sell our IP, our intellectual property, to big clients. And we're also here to talk about ESG, which is environment, social and governance. They're two big themes we're going to talk about today. Okay, I've only got 8 slides to go through, so I'll go through at pace, ladies and gentlemen. Just a very quick corporate background. We've got a market cap of anywhere between 35 and 45 million. Obviously, the share price goes up every day. We've got something like 112 million shares out there on issue. Our biggest shareholder is CSBP, which are a wholly owned subsidiary of Wesfarmers. They own 10% of us. The other 90% is owned by directors and management of K2fly and about 1,200 retail investors. You can see last year the invoices raised were a bit over $6 million. Obviously, I'm not in the position to be doing forecasts in such an event, but I think if you followed our 3 quarters to date, it would be pretty clear we will be exceeding that number. Cash at hand at the moment is about 1.5 mil, and there's about 1.5 mil in receivables from tier 1 clients. Share price goes up and down, but we're in the ballpark of around that sort of 40 million market cap. And a few more slides here. We're very interested, people in the software as a service game are interested in 2 metrics. One is called TCV, or total contract value, and one is called annual recurring revenue. The graph on the top left is talking about TCV. That might be where you've done a 5-year deal with a client, so you multiply the license fee by 5. And you'll see that as of basically January 1, our TCV has grown more than 56%. That's the orange color lines there. And below that is the blue. If you go to the graph on the right of that, that is sort of expanding that blue line. That's the annual recurring revenue. So that's the money we get sent all the time. That's an annuity revenue where people are paying you money, sending you checks on a monthly basis. And again, you can see that graph is going quite nicely. We're on the 3 million mark now as we've just completed the last quarter. And then finally below that, the graph is showing quarterly invoicing. I won't go into all the details, but Q3 and Q4 are traditionally our best quarters. We've just done a record quarter for Q3, above 2 million, and we could imagine that the score for Q4 will be pretty good as well. Okay, so where does that come from? What is K2fly? Well, K2fly provides enterprise software that delivers against this thing called ESG. And ESG, I'm sure most of you have seen, if you would have looked in the Australian this morning, just as a for instance in the business section, front and center is ESG. This is the idea that organizations, irrespective of industries, really have to do more in the green world. They have to do more to represent themselves in a different light. So people who have invested in K2fly would find our shareholders get exposure to the global resource sector, and in particular to the big miners. We're typically talking tier 1 and tier 2. We very much give shareholders an exposure to ESG issues because the software we provide is facing up to those challenges that our clients have. This software as a service technology, we're also bringing exposure to our investors in that area. SaaS technology is increasingly becoming a high margin game where there are good revenues to be made. And we've already, for a relatively young company, we've been going less than 5 years, we've already got some significant endorsement. So Wesfarmers are our major shareholder, but we've got some major partners. These names may not be household names to you, but they are in the technology space. SAP from Germany, Hitachi from Japan, and Esri from America. Okay, there has been in the last few years, and this is the trend I wanted to talk to you about today really, a fundamental change, a night and day difference in terms of value creation, or in the worst case scenarios, value destruction, particularly in the mining sector. So the traditional valuation over on the left-hand side was basically you find out what's the commodity price per ton or per ounce, how much have you got in the ground, you multiply them together, you have to report about the quality, and you come up with a number and people say, hey, that's fantastic, that's a really good ore body, let's go and dig it up and let's make some money out of it. And that was, that's been around for 100 years or more. However, thankfully, I would suggest for society, that mood, that method has changed somewhat. So now there is this ESG evaluation there where mining projects and companies' value is being increasingly affected by the quality of their governance and their disclosure on ESG risks. And the software and support that we supply helps cover at least these 4 big areas. You don't really need to know all of the details of them. Suffice to say, K2fly's exposure to this. A lot is about land access, how people are allowed to go onto different sites and do different things. There's the mine rehabilitation, which is typically when a mine is at end of life, and how are you going to return that area back to some habitable condition. The whole area of tailings and dams, which there have been some tragedies in recent times where dams have failed and people have tragically lost their lives. And then the big area about community and heritage, which is very significant in Australia and Canada and other places where First Nations people have a significant say. And I think we'd all be aware of the Rio Tinto issues that occurred in recent times, whereby some caves were damaged. And apart from the reputation loss, the issues surrounding people losing jobs, losing credibility has been really quite significant. Okay, so the good thing about K2fly is we and our solutions, our intellectual property, are addressing these industry challenges. The reporting and governance, every company is faced with the same reporting and governance challenges with an ever-increasing ESG scrutiny from multiple stakeholders. So even organisations such as Roy Hill, a major mine here in Western Australia, it isn't publicly listed, so it doesn't have the same regulations in terms of reporting to the stock exchange. But nevertheless, there are lots of regulators, lots of industry groups who would follow what Roy Hill are doing, for instance, in the renewed energy space. Reputation. The ESG reputation of the mining industry has been poor. Let's be honest, it's been further tarnished by some recent disasters in terms of cultural heritage destruction and tailings dam failures, which had a catastrophic loss of life. So this is real stuff we're talking about here, very significant. And really, thankfully, K2fly has chosen this to be an area where we specialize. And then the disclosure demands. Mining companies are under increasing scrutiny to disclose more and more information to regulators, shareholders, ratings agencies, and to their external stakeholders, including their Indigenous partners, in order to maintain their social license to operate. And there are senior figures within these companies now whose remuneration, whose bonuses, whose share option plans are linked to the performance they do in those sort of petals that you can see around the idea of the ESG. They're all significant factors, and some of the mining companies have come late to this game, but thankfully they're attacking it really quite aggressively now. So what are the global changes, global drivers of change? We know there's a finite amount of ore in the ground, so there's declining resources. We know that people are looking for increasing transparency, the expectations and the things they expect to happen around ethical investing have all increased, and there's a lot of sustainability reporting demands. If we had longer to go with this presentation, I'd speed you through some stuff, but the number of reports that the mining companies have to produce now in their annual report or in other things when they're reporting to stakeholders or regulators is extraordinary. 10 years ago, it was one or two. Now it's in the many dozens. And capital is flowing more readily into sustainable assets. So the ESG, while obviously from almost an ideological point of view is a good thing to be doing anyway, funnily enough, the capital investment is going to those firms who can prove good ESG credentials. And certainly the Church of England pension fund last year, or perhaps it was the end of 2019, withdrew money from various mining companies because they disapproved or disagreed with the approach those mining firms had taken to dealing with tailings and dams, just as a for instance. Okay, where do we sit in all of this, K2fly? We're pretty well positioned. We are a micro cap, obviously. We're not a huge company. We've got some 70 odd staff. We're relatively small and agile, we hope. But we have done pretty well. If you look on the left-hand side of this table, we've got 4 of the big iron ore miners around the world: Vale, Rio, FMG and Roy Hill. We've got significant positions in there. We've got a product called Infoscope, which is in one of those circles you see there. And we've also got our R-Cube solution, and we've got a significant presence within the iron ore. Similarly, the top gold the major producer of gold in the world, we've got 5 of the top 10 there again, as measured by ounces: Newcrest, Anglo Ashanti, Newmont, Kinross and Goldfields. Good names who are taking our software and getting good benefit from. But for those people with an eye to the future, those people who are really looking to make a significant gain in an investment, this graph, this table is all important. I won't bore you with the details, but across the top of that table, there are 10 solutions, 10 pieces of our own intellectual property, which we supply to various mining companies. You've then got some of our clients. We've just put 8 up here because it wouldn't fit on the table otherwise. 8 mining clients going down the side, and the red areas, or the sort of pinky hashed out areas, show what those clients have got in different things. So as an example, Rio Tinto have got our resource inventory, our dams and tailings, our community and heritage solution, and drill tracker. There are therefore another 6 products, solutions, which they could make use of. And as you look across each of those mines, you can see what they've been doing. The beautiful thing there for me, certainly as the CEO of this company, is that there's a lot of grey boxes there which haven't been sold yet. Our ability to cross-sell, to land and expand those different intellectual property items, our different solutions, is really important. All of those clients that you see there started with only one of our solutions. So at the bottom, Vale and Roy Hill have only got one of ours so far, and clearly our plan is to grow that. Just as with FMG, they only had one of our solutions, we've now expanded that to 4, the same with Rio, and so on and so forth. So an exposure to K2fly potentially gives you an exposure to this SaaS, software as a service, the technology space, in very big tier 1 mining companies, and helping them deal with their ESG solutions, which are a huge problem and hugely important as those as companies. Just to finish off, conscious of the time, we're based in Perth. We have an office in North America and South Africa. We hope to continue to get clients around the world, but we are very well placed in an area, a topic that is super important to these tier one clients.
That was an insightful presentation, Brian, and thank you so much. And, like you said, we are actually pleased to know about K2fly's vision and strategic direction for 2021. And I'm really glad to see that K2fly has partnered with the Keeping Place and Griffith University to deliver new cultural heritage solution to map ancient rock art in Cape York Peninsula. It is also interesting to know how the partners will deliver a new system for Aboriginal rock art and cultural heritage management in the sandstone country of Southeast Cape York. So we and Market are definitely looking forward to more such achievements of the business. So we have some questions for you in the Q&A chat box below, and let me read them out for you.
Okay.
So Ray is asking that can we expect new solutions added to the K2fly suite anytime soon, and how is the company progressing on this front?
Yeah, it's a really important question. Yes, we are. We are investing heavily. When our 4C comes out at the end of April, people will get a sense of how much we've invested in developing new products. The good thing about K2fly, I've been in this industry a long time, the good thing about K2fly is we're developing new products which are there because clients are asking us, have you got something in your kit bag that will sort out this problem? In the bad old days, you'd have a good idea, you'd go off, you'd spend millions of dollars building something only to find that customers weren't interested. So we are investing significantly, and more about that in a few weeks' time, to build new product, but it's new product whereby one or more of our clients have said, hey, have you got something that would satisfy this demand? And the answer pretty soon will be, yes, we have. So, yeah, very good question. Thank you.
Thank you for answering that, Brian. And James Jones has a really interesting question. They're asking that, has the Sativa acquisition helped K2fly to expand its offering?
The Sativa one, absolutely it has. We've done, again, some really nice work. Obviously, until a contract is signed or a purchase order is received, nothing is definite, but I would be relatively confident that we've done some really good work with Sativa. We've worked with them in some of our clients, which weren't clients of Sativa, and they have some new markets available to them now based upon that. And I think there will be some very significant announcements in due course.
Thank you for answering that, Brian. We'll just take up the last question. It's by Henry. Henry is asking that if you could share some insights on K2fly's new partnership with Griffith University and the Keeping Place for a new cultural heritage solution.
Yeah, okay. So from a commercial point of view, that's not a contract that's going to make us millions and millions of dollars. It's not that type of thing. But in terms of us helping Indigenous groups to support the work they're doing to maintain and enhance cultural heritage, it's super important. It's very important. We want to be part of a solution that is dealing with ESG considerations, and that's us sort of putting our money where our mouth is to some extent. We're doing work with them. We're giving them a solution which will be world-class, and it will help to preserve some world-class artifacts, and that's really important going forwards.
Well, I see there are a lot of questions for you, Brian. So let's just take one more question. And I think let's take Julia's question. So Julia is asking that you have signed a couple of long-term R-Cube deals, for example, Alcoa US and Core Mining. Could you please elaborate on these?
Yeah, so it's frankly, they won't be the only ones. The R-Cube solution is really important for helping mining companies report back to the various stock exchanges, depending on where they're domiciled and who they report to, and giving them really accurate pictures of what's actually happening out at the coalface, no pun intended. But what's the idea there is that in America, the New York Stock Exchange has changed the rules and is going to be tougher in terms of what people are reporting. And that's wonderful because that then brings people to our door asking for demonstrations of our commercial off-the-shelf solution, which is called R-Cubed, because they know that if they can't prove to a higher level of detail that they have solutions which guarantee the numbers they're producing to the stock market, they will get fined. They will get fined by the regulator. And we're in a really strong position because of some work we've done already with the likes of Alcoa and Coa. So yeah, we're very well placed to help those organizations.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Brian, for answering all the questions. For all the other attendees whose questions have not been answered as of now, we will try and take them up towards the end of the webinar. Thank you so much for such an insightful presentation, and thank you for being with us and answering so patiently. You can also email your queries and questions to us at info@kalkinemedia.com. Okay. So with this, it brings us towards the end of our webinar session. And for dwelling further into equity market updates, like we always say, audience, all you have to do is visit our media website, which is kalkinemedia.com. Speakers, you may stay abreast with market moves, stock updates, and economic transactions with Kalkine Media. Also do visit our equity research website, which is kalkine.com. Stay tuned with Kalkine for the upcoming Invest Nest webinar series again later this month. And I hope to see you all once again. We are very active on our social media. So stay connected with us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. If you have any queries, please email us at info@kalkinemedia.com. Have a good day.